The story. The Nexus Gate. The silence of the cabin was my only companion, a hard-won trophy after a lifetime of screaming metal and desperate orders. I cherished its texture, its absoluteness. It was the one thing the job had never been able to give me. Outside, a storm hammered the mountainside, a natural fury that was simpler, cleaner than the things I'd faced. When the secure line buzzed, the sound was a violation, a ghost from a grave I'd tried to fill. I let it ring, staring at the photograph on the wall. My team. Captain Finn Rigel had his arm around my shoulders, grinning like a fool, holding up the strange jagged rock we'd found in the Kazakh steppe, the rock that would kill him and 2 others mere hours later. The Kappa 7 incident. On the 5th ring, I answered. Vance. I didn't offer more. Elias. Director Isadora Croft's voice was like dry ice, cold and smoking. Your vacations. Over. We need you. I'm retired. We found it, she continued, ignoring me completely. The source of the Kappa 7 resonance signature. We're calling it the Nexus Gate. The readings are a perfect match. My hand tightened. On the receiver. I could almost hear it again. The high psychic whine of the artifact, the way it made the fillings in your teeth ache, the smell of ozone and burned meat. Congratulations. Run your tests. Leave me out of it. We have been, she said, her tone shifting to one of clinical precision. For a year. It's not a rock, Elias. It's a doorway. And it opens every 18 hours. The other side, it defies description. But the resonance is active there. It's singing. You're the only one with lived experience of that particular harmonic. Your unique neurosignature is the key. Find another key. There are no others. Rigel's dead. So are the others. You're the last relic of Kappa 7. A pause, expertly calibrated. This is a chance for answers, Elias. For closure. One last look. Then the ghost is laid to rest. We will never call again. It was a lie. I knew it was a lie. But she had used the right words. Answers. Closure. Ghost. The hook, baited with. My own personal trauma was set. Curiosity wasn't a disease. It was a terminal condition, and I had been in remission for too long. The Aetherius complex wasn't a base. It was a tomb buried a mile deep in the Nevada desert. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and repressed fear. Director Croft met me in a hangar large enough to house a spacecraft, her handshake as perfunctory as a medical inspection. You look tired, Vance. Country life doesn't suit you. She didn't wait for a reply, turning on her heel. This way. We're on a clock. As we walked, a uniformed guard at a checkpoint nodded. Dr. Vance, good to have you back. I didn't recognize him. I gave a non-committal grunt, assuming he had me confused with someone else. Croft led me through a maze of sterile corridors. The gate was discovered during a geological survey. Seismic activity unearthed it. Its material is unlike anything. On Earth, a composite of basalt, metals we can't identify, and something else. It's inert for 17 hours and 57 minutes. Then it activates. We entered a prep room. A nervous young man in a lab coat was calibrating a set of sophisticated equipment. This is Dr. Eris Thorne, Croft said, dismissively. Our lead theorist. He'll explain your kit. Thorne looked up, his eyes wide behind his glasses. He offered a weak smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sir, it's an honor. He seemed genuinely awed, and something else, apprehensive. The chrono-lock, he began, holding up a heavy wrist-mounted device. It anchors you to our space-time continuum. Theoretically, it will also be your timer and primary data recorder. He handed me a pair of clear, flexible lenses. Ocular enhancers. They'll help your visual cortex interpret the non-Euclidean geometries and light spectra we've detected. They also record everything you see. Finally, he held up a small, circular biopatch. The cortical monitor. It adheres to your occipital lobe. It will monitor your brain activity, watch for neurological degradation, and, well, it will attempt to filter any direct psychic resonance. Attempt? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Thorne glanced at Croft, who was staring impassively. The resonance is powerful. The monitor is experimental. A polite term for you're the guinea pig, I muttered, taking the device. It was cool and slightly oily. The gate stabilizes for a 32-minute window, Croft interjected. You will have that long to enter. Once it closes, you are there for the full 18-hour cycle. We will be monitoring your biosigns and data stream, but communication is impossible. You are on your own until the next window. The weight of the isolation was a physical pressure. 18 hours in an unknowable hell. Why me, really? I asked, looking directly at Croft. My signature? Or am I just the most expendable asset with the right background? Her smile was thin and sharp. You're the only asset. Period. The gate doesn't like our drones. They come back changed, scrambled. We need a human mind, a resilient one. She led me to the final door. It hissed open, revealing the gate room. And there it was. The Nexus Gate was larger than I'd imagined. An arch of that same dark, vaguely crystalline stone from the Kappa 7 artifact. It was covered in intricate carvings, but at its apex was the one that chilled my blood. The same spiral that had been on the rock in Kazakhstan. It was thrumming with a low, subaudible frequency that vibrated in my bones. As it activated, the air within the arch shimmered, then resolved into a window. My breath caught. A world of impossible beauty lay beyond. A jungle of towering trees with cobalt leaves under a sky of swirling golden haze. It was pristine, majestic, and utterly terrifying. God, I breathed. We've detected no overtly hostile life forms, Croft said, her voice devoid of wonder. The atmosphere is breathable. Your mission is reconnaissance. Map the immediate area. Document everything. Find the source of the resonance. Bring back any data that can tell us what this is. The pull was undeniable. This was the abyss I had spent my life staring into. Now it was staring back, and it was beautiful. I fitted the enhancers. The world sharpened, the colors of the gate world becoming almost painfully vivid. I felt the cold gel of the cortical monitor seal against the base of my skull. The chrono lock. On my wrist began its countdown. 17, 59, 59. I looked at Croft one last time. Her expression was one of pure, avaricious curiosity. Thorne looked like he was attending a funeral. Without another word, I stepped toward the light. Crossing the threshold was not a step. It was a dissolution. A sensation of being unraveled and woven back together. A nauseating rush of cold. A scream of wrongness in every nerve ending. I stumbled forward onto soft, damp earth and vomited violently. The gate snapped shut behind me with a sound like a universe sighing. Silence. Then, not silence. A living, breathing symphony of the alien. Chittering, clicking, deep, resonant booms. That echoed through the colossal trees. The air was thick and wet, smelling of cloying nectar, rich loam, and the sharp tang of ozone. The chrono lock read 1758-15. I was alone. I activated the anchor function. The display flickered, stabilizing to show a time differential of 0.003% slower than Earth standard. Manageable. For now. I named it, then and there, the Empyrean. It felt fitting for a world so beautiful and so clearly divine in its indifference. For the first hour, I simply documented the basics. The bioluminescent fungi that clung to the tree roots like electric moss. The strange, six-legged grazers that moved through the undergrowth, their hides shifting color to match the foliage. It was a biologist's dream. The whispers began as I was taking a soil sample. At first, I thought it was the wind through the giant blue leaves, but then I heard it, a faint, melodic hum that resolved into a fragment of a song Clara used to sing. My heart clenched. The cortical monitor pinged softly. Elevated limbic activity, audio pareidolia suspected. "It's not real," I said aloud, the sound of my own voice a comfort in the immense, watching silence. I found a game trail and followed it. The further I went, the denser the vegetation became, and then I saw the first carving, the spiral, etched into the bark of a tree, old and weathered, but undeniable. My monitor pinged again. Pattern recognition, Kappa 7 artifact. Cross-referencing. The tech was working, but the sight filled me with a cold dread. We did not bring this here. It was already waiting. The trail led to a clearing bisected by a wide, slow-moving river. But this was no water. It was a viscous, glowing sap, pulsing with a soft, amber light. As I approached the bank, the air shimmered. Was no longer on the Empyrean. I was on a beach in Maui. The sun was warm on my skin. Clara was next to me laughing, her hand in mine. She turned to me, her eyes full of love. "Remember this, Elias? This was the day we decided to try for a family." The memory was so perfect, so vivid, it stole the air from my lungs. I could smell the salt, feel the grit of the sand. The cortical monitor shrieked in my skull, a spike of raw pain. Psychic intrusion, neural overlay detected. I stumbled back, blinking, and the vision shattered. I was back on the bank of the glowing river, my face wet with tears I hadn't felt falling. The river didn't show truth, it showed idealized memories. It was a predator that fed on longing. Shaken, I moved on, now jumping at every shadow. I found the primitive tools near a rock formation, an old pickaxe, its wooden handle rotted away, and a rusted canteen. Military issue. Cold War era. And then I found the altar. It was a slab of the same dark stone as the gate, covered in a complex tapestry of spirals that seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. And there, scrawled on its surface in a shaky, desperate hand, was the message, "Don't trust the gate." The whispers surged, no longer vague sounds but clear voices I recognized. "She sold you a bill of goods, mate," Captain Rigel's voice drawled in my ear. Clear as day. I spun around, but there was nothing there. "Croft. She knows. She bloody well knows." "Finn?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "The gate's a one-way ticket to nowhere," the voice continued, cynical and weary. "You just get to pick. You're nowhere. Should have stayed in your cabin, Elias." A movement in the periphery. I turned slowly, my hand going to the knife on my belt. It stood at the edge of the clearing, half hidden behind a giant fern. It was humanoid, but its skin was mottled with patches of dark, fungal growth and what looked like lichen. Its eyes were large, completely black, and held a terrifying, ancient intelligence. And sadness, and profound, weary sadness. It looked at me, and it knew me. It wasn't a monster, it was a person, transformed, adapted. It took a half-step forward, not in threat, but in recognition. Then it melted back into the jungle, silent as a ghost. My heart hammered against my ribs. These were the lost explorers. This was what the Empyrean did to its guests. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to get away from that clearing. I burst into a vast open plain. The ground was covered in crystalline flowers that grew in intricate geometric patterns. As the wind blew across them, they emitted a soft, haunting melody, a chorus of 1,000 tiny glass bells. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. It was also deadly. My chronolock screen dissolved into static. My ocular enhancers flickered. The cortical monitor was a constant, frantic ping of distress in my skull. The song was pure, unstructured resonance, and it was scrambling. My tech and my mind. And there, nestled between two singing crystals, was a human skull. Time had worn it smooth, and a bioluminescent moss grew in its eye sockets. On a flat rock beside it, another message was scratched, this one with a sharp stone. D. Watch you dream. The voice of Rigel was back, but now it was panicked, screaming, "The light, Elias! Don't look at the light!" I was back on the Kappa 7 survey, the artifact pulsing, Rigel and the others vaporizing in a flash of blinding white. The memory was so violent I fell to my knees, clutching my head. I pushed. On, driven by pure terror now. I found a grove where the trees had been transformed into pillars of smooth obsidian-like glass. In the center stood the main altar, larger than the others. The symbols on it were not carved. They seemed to be grown into the stone, pulsing with a faint internal light. The Twisted were here. Dozens of them. They stood silently among the glass trees, watching me. They did not advance. They simply observed. One of them stepped forward. It was larger than the others, its form more stable. The fungal patches on its skin looked almost like a map of constellations. This was the one I had seen before. The Watcher. It stopped a few feet from me. Its large black eyes held mine. I could see my own reflection in them, distorted and small. When it spoke, its voice was a rasping, multi-layered chorus, as if 100 lost voices were speaking through a single ruined throat. You are new. I could only stare, my knife trembling in my hand. The key turns both ways, it intoned. You seek to return, but you do not return to the world you left. You never do. It raised a clawed hand and pointed to the base of the altar. There, half buried, was a dog tag. I didn't need to pick it up to know what it was. The final proof. The cycle continues, the Watcher rasped. You will join us, or you will die, or you will walk into a sun that does not know your name. It pointed again, this time away from the altar. A path I hadn't seen before led back into the jungle, hurting me, guiding me. My chronolock was a mess of gibberish. I had no idea how much time had passed. I was lost in every sense of the word. I ran. The jungle itself seemed to conspire against me. Branches whipping at my face, roots seeming to rise up to trip me. The Twisted followed, a silent, mournful procession. They weren't trying to catch me. They were showing me the way to my fate. Burst into a clearing. The gate was there, flickering weakly like a dying star. I stood before it, the warmth of its light a mockery of the sun. Don't trust the gate. The Watcher's words echoed. The faces of the Twisted, those pitiful, lost souls, flashed before me. What choice did I have? To stay was to become one of them. The gate was the only door, even if it led to a prison. With a final, shuddering breath that felt like my last, I leapt through the light. The return was a physical and psychic slam. The sterile, cold air of the complex burned my lungs. The hum of machinery was deafening after the Empyrean's organic symphony. I collapsed to my knees on the cool, hard concrete, gasping, my whole body trembling. Vance, you're back, Croft's voice. I looked up. She stood well back, flanked by Dr. Thorne and 4 security personnel holding bulky scanner wands. Her expression was not one of relief, but of intense clinical assessment. Thorne looked horrified. Did you think I wouldn't be? I croaked, my voice raw. Operational probability was estimated at 18%, she stated, her voice devoid of emotion. Initiate full decontamination and quantum signature analysis. The guards approached cautiously. One ran a scanner, wand over me, It emitted a sharp, piercing beep and flashed a violent red. The guard's eyes widened. Director, the quantum signature is non-congruent. The variance is 7.3 sigma outside baseline parameters. It's not him. A cold, far deeper than any on the Empyrean, seized my heart. What does that mean? I demanded, struggling to my feet. Croft's face was a marble mask of cold triumph. It means you returned, Mr. Vance. But the Nexus Gate does not connect to a single reality. It operates on a quantum probability manifold. Each activation links to a near-identical universe, but it is effectively random. You have returned to an Earth, just not your own. The world tilted on its axis. I gripped a nearby console for support, my mind reeling. You knew? You knew, and you sent me in blind. The theory was unproven until now, she said, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. Your mission has provided the first confirmed evidence. Those we lose aren't necessarily dead. They are simply displaced. Dr. Thorne looked like he was about to be sick. We have a file for you, Mr. Vance, from this timeline. Croft nodded. Thorne reluctantly handed me a tablet. On the screen was a personnel file. Vance, Elias J. Status, deceased. EMEA date of loss, Inazo 6th, 18th, 2023, cause, lost during Nexus Gate test activation. Alphi scrolled down. It was my photo. But the service record was different. Yeah, the dates were wrong. There were missions I'd never run, commendations I'd never received, and a personal details section. Next of kin. Sarah Vance, wife. Illy Vance, daughter, age 6. The word wife hit me like a bullet. Sarah? My wife's name was Clara. We never had children. We decided it was too dangerous. What is this? My voice was a hollow whisper. In this reality, Croft explained, her tone that of a professor stating a simple fact, you were a willing volunteer on our first manned mission. You were lost 6 months ago. Your family held a service. Your effects were boxed and sent to your widow. She paused, letting the word widow hang in the air like poison. Your return will be complicated. There has to be a way back, I said, desperation clawing at my throat. Reactivate the gate. Send me through again. I'll take the risk. And connect to where? Croft asked, a hint of mockery in her voice. The next activation could lead to a world where a nuclear war ravaged the planet in the 80s. Or one where humanity never evolved. Or one where you died as a child. You are a statistical miracle, Vance. You return to a reality that has a place for you. That is more than most get. She turned to leave. Dr. Thorne will see you processed. You'll be debriefed, given a full identity package, and reintegrated. The Elias Vance of this world is a celebrated pioneer. You will be that pioneer. It is the most logical outcome. Logic. She spoke of logic while she dismantled my soul. When she was gone, Thorne approached me, his hands shaking. I'm so sorry, he murmured, his voice thick with guilt. I argued against it. I told her the ethics, the risk to you. The others, I said, my voice flat, dead. The things I saw, the twisted. Thorne's face paled further. We don't know for sure. Some believe they are the ones the gate couldn't place. The ones who tried to return, cycle after cycle, for decades. Their minds, their bodies. The Empyrean integrated them. It digested them. The cortical monitor was meant to prevent that, to keep your psychic signature foreign so the gate could reacquire it. He looked at the floor. It must have worked, just enough. They watched you dream. Hours later, I was led out of the complex. The sun was bright, the Nevada air so dry it felt like sandpaper in my lungs. I was given a wallet with an ID card for a man with my face and a different middle name, a set of keys, and an address scribbled on a piece of paper. The life of a dead man. I stood on the side of the access road, a stranger to myself. In my pocket was a phone they'd given me. I turned it on. The background photo was of a woman with a kind smile and a young girl with my eyes, both laughing, in a backyard I had never seen. The screen lit up with a notification. One new voicemail. From Sarah. The header read, "Miss you. Lily drew a picture for Daddy today." I looked up at the vast, empty blue sky. The gate was silent. Behind me, buried deep within the earth. It was not a door, it was a filter, a digestive system. And I was the nutrient it had absorbed, processed, and then expelled into a nearly identical, yet utterly foreign, vein. I had escaped the jungle, but I had never, ever left it. I got in the car, started the engine, and began to drive toward a home that belonged to another man, in a world that was almost mine, but would never, ever be.